Okay, this is going to be an overview of female reproductive for lab 14. So start off, we've got a pelvis, and inside the pelvis, we've got down here would be the bladder, and then sitting on top of that would be the uterus. So pull this guy out of here. You guys remember the wider subpubic angle for the female? Open this up. Here would be the sigmoid colon would be up here leading into the rectum, and then the anal canal here. And then the uterus is going to sit up here with the vaginal canal coming down. And then the vagina would be out here. Bladder's here with the urethra opening up there. Pull this apart. All right, so the uterus is here. Major things, we've got the vaginal canal coming up here. This would be the cervix, so we can close this area off. And then up here is the actual uterus. The top would be the fundus, and then the opening would be the lumen. And then this whole section would be the body. So layers, the lumen in here, the part that you can see would be the endometrium. Now there's two layers to the endometrium. There's a functional layer, which is what you actually see here. And that layer is going to be what gets built up for the fertilized egg to implant in. And it's going to be what's shed every month if there's no fertilized egg. So that's the functional layer of the endometrium. Right underneath that is the basal layer of the endometrium. So it's going to be just right here. And then you've got this big layer through here is a muscular layer. So that's going to be myometrium. And then on the outside, you have parametrium. So it goes around the perimeter. Yeah, I think that's about it for this guy. We'll switch over now to a large uterus. So here's our uterus model. This guy would be the body, then the fundus, and in here would be the lumen. So vaginal canal, the vagina would be down here. This guy actually shows the hymen as well. And here's the cervix. So this here would be your functional layer of the endometrium, then the basal layer, the myometrium, and then the parametrium. Flip this over so we can see these would be the fallopian tubes, and these would be the ovaries. So these yellow guys right here are supposed to be the primordial follicles, which are then going to develop into the follicle. Develop the yellow spot inside of it is going to be your oocyte. So the follicle would be the whole thing with the oocyte, and then as that matures, eventually it's going to be move over here, and the oocyte will get released into the fallopian tubes. So usually like 5 to 12 or so follicles will mature at one time, and then typically one of them is going to become dominant, and then that'll be the one that during ovulation the egg gets released from each month. So the egg then can travel down the fallopian tube here and hopefully get fertilized inside the fallopian tube, and then end up implanting into that functional layer of the endometrium. Let's look at the fallopian tubes a little closer. So we got the ovary, and then these finger-looking things are the fimbriae, and then you have a funnel type shape here. That's going to be your infundibulum. And then the part that kind of opens up to the funnel is the ampulla. And then running across here is this thinner part. It's going to be the isthmus. So, and then those are going to open up ultimately into the lumen of the uterus. So, while we're here, let's look at ligaments real quick. So this guy, all of this, is going to be the broad ligament. Then there's a ovarian ligament that goes from the ovary over to the uterus. So that's this here. There's also a round ligament you can't see, but it attaches close to that ovarian ligament, and then it runs out here. We'll be able to see that on another model. Aside from that, down here would be a uterosacral ligament. So it's going to go from the uterus to the sacrum. And then on either side of the vaginal canal, going down like this, would be a transverse ligament that's going to kind of hold that in place within the body. All right, let's move over to another model. So here we got a complete cross section. So we'll go over, touch on what we just covered. So uterus, endometrium, myometrium, and parametrium. You've got the cervix, vaginal canal, vagina. If we turn it here, the fundus would be on top and the lumen in the center. Here you have the ovary, fimbriae, infundibulum, ampulla into the isthmus, coming up to the uterus. The round ligament you can see right here coming out and going over, and the ovarian ligament you can see here. Also, you notice, if this helps you keep it straight, the uterus sits directly above the bladder here. So if somebody's pregnant, as the baby grows, that's going to be sitting right on top of the bladder, which kind of accounts for the stereotypical pregnant women having to pee a lot. Whether or not it's true, that should help you remember where everything's at. Also, we're going to do external reproductive now, but this guy, just for reference, is the pubic symphysis. So that's that piece of cartilage pad between the two pubic bones. So out here, this area would be the mons pubis. Then you have the labia majora, so large lip, and labia minora, or small lip. Inside the labia minora, you have this open area. It's going to be the vestibule. And then you would have the urethra here, vaginal opening, and then behind the anal sphincter here. This guy here is going to be the clitoris. I think that about covers it for female reproductive. We'll look at the mammary glands next. So here we have a breast. It's technically a mammary gland. So on the outside you have the nipple, which would only be this part here, and then the areola would be the surrounding portion. And then if we open it up, you're going to have a number of openings here into the nipple and an open space where it's a little bit larger. This is going to be a lactiferous sinus. Think about lactate and just a sinus is an opening. So lactiferous sinus, that's going to run into a lactiferous duct, which is going to run down into a lobe. So within the lobe, there'll be smaller lobules that you'll have. So you have lobules into lobes with a lactiferous duct leading out to the lactiferous sinus, which sits just inside the nipple. And then it would open up into the nipple, which is surrounded by the areola. that's it for mammary glands. Yeah, that's it. Hope it helps.